Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Accelerated ID series. My name is Katie Short, and I am the Director of Learning Solutions at the Instructional Design Company. And I'm so excited to be with you today as we dive into Vyond. So joining me today for this session is Star Peterson. Star has worked as a teacher for 15 years before beginning a career in instructional design. They now work full-time as a freelance instructional designer, e-learning developer, and diversity trainer. Star recently completed a project for teachers dealing with problem behavior using just Vyond and animation videos. Welcome, Star. How are
Hey,
you?
thanks for having me.
Awesome. So today, Star is going to share with you how you can use animated video in instructional design and e-learning, and they will show you how to make a short Vyond animated video in this session. So Star, I'm going to give you the reins and the controls here.
I think we'll just jump right in. All right, so what I did here, I went to the Vyond homepage and just started with a new project. I'm going to show you the basics as if you've never seen it before, and then toward the end, I'll go through a bunch of tricks that will take it to the next level for you. So to start with a new slide, you can right-click and choose Add Blank Scene. You go over here and pick out a background. There's a lot of I had locations open. There's tons of locations and patterns. The more you use it, the more you'll get to know what's available. They've got so many options. So they really do a lot of the work for you in terms of these gorgeous backgrounds that already have movement in them. So I've gotten to where I know the templates well enough that I kind of have them in the back of my head when I'm designing my Vyond storyboard, because I think, okay, well, I know I do a lot of conversations for my videos, like how to have a difficult conversation about microaggressions or pronouns. And so I'll think, okay, well, I know there's a coffee shop template. That's easy enough to use. Or I know there's a restaurant template. So definitely become familiar with the locations and the backgrounds that are available. And I'm going to show you a lot about templates because that really saves you a ton of time. So we'll start over here with characters. When you first open it up, there's 3 different types of animation you can do on Vyond. The subscription I have just allows for business friendly. Every now and then I do find people who want whiteboard specifically. Contemporary, just to get an idea of what it looks like. It's a very different feel. I do feel like it looks a little more professional and clean cut, but the business option is the only one that has kids. So that's what I usually end up using. So you go and let's say we're going to have an office. You can pick any character you want. If you don't see the exact character you want, you can go ahead and make a new character. So you go to here, create character. And what I encourage you to do is they give you a lot of options for skin tone. I keep a running list of different skin tone of the numbers for different skin tones, the codes, because I'll show you. So these are the ones they have, but that's not a super diverse group. So a lot of times when I find a shade that I think that is not included here, I just have a Word document running so that I can just enter the code right here and get exactly what I want. But as you can see here, you can change the face here. You can also change the facial shape. They have some fun Halloween stuff. They've got a wide selection of hair. Some of it includes hats. And you can change the hair color here. Again, enter whatever color you want. If I need to represent real person, I use this little tool all the time that I added. It's a Chrome extension called Color Picker. It doesn't have to be on Chrome. There's a ton of them for free. And I'll just go to a photograph of that person and use Color Picker to get the exact color of their hair or their skin. And that ends up working well to when you want to make it obvious who you're trying to depict. For example, I had to depict the Obamas. And so I chose, I pulled skin colors from their actual photographs and then put a bunch of American flags in there to make it really obvious who I was showing. The mouth you choose is really important because this is what the face is going to look like in neutral. So Right now, like this is neutral, but she looks happy, right? If I chose this as the neutral thing, now she looks a little angry, annoyed. So you want to think about what emotions you're going to be expressing because the eyebrows and the mouths are going to make a really big difference for emotions. So again, if you'll always have a happy option, I'll show you how to change expressions, but your neutral option is really going to make a big difference. So for this one, we'll have someone slightly happy. That'll be fine. Some of the mouths you can change colors, some not. Earrings, you've got all kinds of different options. Again, eyes, lots of different options. I didn't use the same few. A lot of them just look really sleepy. Like you can change eye color here. Eyebrows, again, are going to really change what your character looks like. Like if this is what the person looks like as their resting normal state before like when you don't add any emotion, they kind of look like a villain here versus now they look concerned. I try to find something pretty neutral like this. Unless, again, I'm trying to convey an element of the person's personality that I want them to always look kind of angry or kind of sad. I've got a few different noses to choose from. And you can add eyewear if you want to. Just like the other thing, you can't change the colors on the eyewear. There are a really nice selection of outfits for all sorts of different professions. So I did the safety training, so I used a lot of construction outfits, but a lot of different professions have options here. There's also lots of nice, business clothes that you can use, and some of them will let you change the color, some will not. For hands, you'll probably normally leave that alone, but if you're having a character who's outside or a medical professional that you want to put blue gloves on, that is an option. Bottoms, again, lots of choices. Some of them will let you change the color and some won't. And then shoes, again, plenty of choices. Now, depending on what subscription you have, it tells you how many accessories you can add. The max I've seen is 3. So my subscription here, you can only add 1. But if you want to make someone look older, you could add some wrinkles. This day and age, you might want to add a mask to make it look realistic. So you've got all kinds of options. I used a graduation cap if they're graduating. It's just video is such a powerful way to communicate things. And the more you can show rather than tell, the better. And then I name my characters because I end up having a lot of them. And it's just easier to keep track of. So for example, when I did the teacher training, this might be teacher 1. So you can create as many characters as you want. And then now your character is going to be here in your library permanently until you delete it. So you can go back and grab that character whenever you want. If you're doing a series of videos, you might want to have the same characters in the series so you won't have to remake that character. The next thing we're going to do is props. Tons and tons and tons of options. One of the fancy options is called masking, where you can put someone on a computer screen or a TV screen. So we'll go into that a little bit later. One thing I want to draw your attention to are the foods and the drinks. There's a lot of actions you can choose for characters where like they're drinking coffee or they're eating. If you're going to do that in a scene and you're going to have them sometimes eating or drinking and sometimes not because they're talking, you want to pick the props you use really carefully. For example, let me put a character in here and show you. I do a lot of conversations in my Vyond videos, right? Like how to have a difficult conversation about, say, microaggressions. So this is where you go to actions. And let's say I want her to be talking, but to make it look casual, she's going to be drinking something while she talks. Well, my options here, there's different things in her hands. Not every single prop that's available in this prop section is available in the action section. So pick your action and then pick your props. Because if I have her sipping in some sight scenes and then talking in others, I'm going to need to be able to add a prop over here to put down her wine glass or her spoon, her fork of spaghetti, just the little details to make it look more realistic. So that's the most important thing to know about props. Charts, got a nice little selection here. Text is also super easy to add, lots of different options, and you can feel free to mix and match a little bit if you don't see exactly what you want. Within reason, you don't have to stick to just business friendly or just contemporary. You can have fun with it. Sounds, there are a ton of different background musics. There's a lot of sound effects, which are really fun. I use Ben Sound, Bensound, for anything I can't find, like if the client needs something really specific. Anything that they don't already have, you can upload here. I often end up uploading a client logo. I always upload my voiceover here. If you see here, they will let you record it, but the quality is not as good. Audacity is free software. I got a halfway decent microphone for $100, and I've recorded my own stuff that way. Voiceover artists can get pretty expensive. I have since learned that if you go to narratorfiles.com, it is by far the cheapest voiceover you can get. I've learned a little bit about how to do good voiceover, but because I don't have $1,000 recording studio, $1,000 equipment and a special recording studio, it's never the quality that I want when I do it on my own. So these days I go to narrator files. If for about a page of text, it's only $22 and they get it to you in about 4 days. So they're amazing. They have, I think, six different feminine presenting voices, six different masculine presenting voices. You pick the voice you want. There's even a Spanish speaker if you need that. So, highly recommend them if you're on a budget, you're making something for your portfolio, and you need an expensive voiceover. A lot of us just don't like to hear our voices anyway, but I've never gotten the professional level quality that I could use for clients recording it on my own. All right, so once we have a person, let's put in somebody without a mask so you can see the expressions. So anything you need to delete, you just select and delete. So let's get a character, and you can resize the character however you like. And then you go to expressions here. You choose the expression, and you can choose the direction the person is looking. The expression, this is where like neutral is really going to matter what mouth you picked, right? And which eyebrows. Because this says neutral, but she looks kind of happy. This isn't the neutral face you want if someone is receiving bad news, right? So there's lots of good options. Angry, confused. Some of these I don't use very often, or it'll say one thing, but I'll use it for another emotion. So it really is just you're just going to get used to what the different mouths and eyebrows look like and find what you want. So once you've gotten your basic character, what I usually do is instead of starting from scratch like this with the background and characters, I usually start with a template because it saves you so much time. So let me show you how to get to the templates. So anytime you want to add a scene in between, you just right click on the scene that you want it to come after, and you can click choose template. There are so many templates. They've got a little something for everything, and they've put a lot of work into all the details, so you're not spending hours adding props. You can get something that looks great, change it up however you want it, and this is literally going to save you hours of your life. There's a few little things I'll show you that I usually end up tweaking with the templates, but for example, you go to Office, tons and tons of different options. So if you need a call center or you need a conference call, a little bit of everything. So I already picked out some templates for us to use today. I'm going to start with this one, the restaurant template. Oh, come on. So this is a pre-made template. Let me show you what it looks like when you play. They put so much work into this, and the detail looks incredible. And if you made this yourself, see they've got stuff moving in the background. Oh, let's make it longer so you can see for a minute. To make scenes longer, you just go to the scene and you can adjust it like this. So let me make this longer for a sec so you can see everything going on. Again, I use restaurants a lot when I'm trying to show people having conversations. It's just a casual way to so you can have people eating, you can have people talking. The more movement you can put in there, the more realistic it's going to look. You're not going to be able to have everybody move. There's not an action for everything, but the more little details you can add. So let's say I did this, but I need to put my character here. Now, one way you could do it is click on the character and delete him. But here's the problem. This is all dozens and dozens and dozens of different layers. So if I try to add my character in here, so I can get her to the size I need, that's not a problem. But obviously she's in front of the table. Now I can right click, I can go to order, I can send her to the back, but that doesn't work either. I don't want her behind here. I want her at the table. So you can right click, go to order, and just move forward. But I promise you from lots of experience, if you do it this way, you're going to do it about 80 times because it's not just what's in front of her, it's all these different things on the screen. So what I do instead, I'm going to delete her, is when you get something you like, a good template you like, choose the character you're going to replace. Use this replace button here, and then pick your character. And now the character is the correct size, the character's doing the exact right action. You don't have to worry about the layering. They're in front of the seat, but behind the table. So this button here is going to be your savior. And when you're done using replace, you can just click away from it, or you can hit escape. So definitely recommend that. I'm going to show you how to use motion because that's super fun. So let's say we want in our scene, we're going to be giving doctors some advice on bedside manner. So let's make this doctor walk in first. So I'm going to go to action and I'm going to choose walk. And there are so many different walks. Like you are not going to use most of these most of the time. So when you find one that you use a lot, for example, find one that I use a lot. Well, those are the holding hands. The stairs you might use a lot. This one. You can go ahead and push these three buttons here and you can add it to quick access if it's one you're going to be using a lot. I usually end up scrolling way down. You can have them walk toward the camera. You can have people walk with a guide dog. There are definitely very few options that are just plain old walking. So when you find those, like for example, here's a good one, just plain old walking, go ahead and add that to your quick access. So if I want her to walk in the room, I'm going to have her come from here. First of all, she's facing the wrong way. So I'm going to right click and choose flip action. I'm going to put her off here because I want her to walk into my scene. And let's make this scene long enough so you can see that. This is where it gets fun. So you click on her and then you choose motion path. Lots of different motion paths. 99% of the time, I'm just using a straight line. Now, I don't want her to end up right in this person's face, right? Like they need some personal space. So I'm going to click away, click her again, and now I can select where she ends up. If you try to click where she ends up immediately, it's going to move the whole thing. So you need to click away first. I'm using the arrow keys right now because then I don't have to worry about accidentally making it not completely straight and then it looks funny. There are those little guides to help you. Arrow keys are easiest. Now down here, we've got our timeline. So if you push this button here, you're going to see this is the doctor walking. Now you need her walking to fill up the entire scene because if this ends before the scene ends, she's just going to disappear. And that's not what you want. You don't want your person disappearing. So I'm going to go up here and choose undo. Now, the longer the scene, the more slowly she's going to walk, right? Because it'll take more seconds here for her to get from A to B. So you're just going to play with it until she's walking at a reasonable speed. So this is kind of slow, right? Like it looks like her legs are moving just a little bit too quickly to go with the speed she's walking at. So I would probably shorten this and it'll automatically shorten it for you when you shorten the whole scene. So let's say I get my character in here. First, I want my doctor to walk in. So for my next scene, I want her to talk to the patient. Now, this is going to save you a lot of time as well using continue scene. Before I continue scene, make sure every little detail in here is exactly as you want it. Because if you go back to change something later, you're going to have to copy and paste onto every single scene. And you're going to end up needing to have a separate scene for every single action because you can only have one action per character on the scene. So if you need a kid sitting here or you need any little details, make sure this is exactly how you want it. Now I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose continue scene, and it's going to pick up right where we left off. So this way there's not going to be any glitch. The person watching this isn't even going to know that we're in a different scene because it's going to start right there. So then I'm going to select her again. And now I want her to talk to the patient. So I'll choose talk. Lots of, again, tons of options, standing, sitting. For certain options, you can even choose like talk, sit, and just get the sitting or the standing options, talk, stand. But this doesn't always bring up all the options. So if you see, if I just do talk, there's actually a lot more standing options. So this is another one where you're going to want to add to access the ones you use a lot. So I use the one talking on the hip, very casual, might not be appropriate for a doctor, but holding a laptop, presenting at a conference, there's just everything you could possibly need here. If you need them to face the camera, you're going to have to choose a different option. Here's another one I use a lot, just plain old talking. And again, if I need her to look the other way, I can right click and choose flip action. Mirror will do the same thing. So let's say I want to have her talking for a few minutes. Now to add my voiceover, I'm going to use upload over here. I've already uploaded just a plain old MP3 file. I'm not going to play it for you because it's irrelevant, but this is something I just got from Narrator Files. Super quick, super cheap. The one criticism I have for Narrator Files, there's not a lot of diversity in accents. There is one person with a Spanish accent. The rest, it all kind of sounds like someone talking on a commercial or a radio. So I do hire voiceover actors when I need people with different accents just to represent the diversity that's in our world. Once you have instructional design on your profile, every voiceover artist and their brother is going to be contacting you. So I just post when I need someone like, hey, I'm looking for a variety of accents. Shoot me a message if you're up for doing a small project. And I find that people that way. So you will be inundated with voiceover artists. So then you have her talk here. If I want her to be saying what's in here, see, this is going to show my audio. I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose settings. And then I'm going to choose who I want to say it. So here I want her to be saying those words. And then you can adjust the volume. You're not usually going to use fade except for music. So then you can just click away. And now that's going to make, we can't see her mouth here, but that's going to make her mouth move along to whatever the voiceover is here. So then again, she would talk, we'd right click and go to continue scene. And then maybe now we would choose an action where she's giving the person a shot. So we could choose vaccine shot here. You got a little bit of everything. The next thing I want to show you is some camera tricks. I told you I use a lot of conversations, so here's a coffee shop. Now remember, I'm going to make the timeline smaller so you can see this better. So let's minimize that timeline. See how she's holding a cup? I want her to put the cup down in certain scenes just because the more movement, the more natural it looks. And I know from going through my props that I don't have that cup in the props. So I would actually choose a different cup for her to be holding. This is one thing I end up changing a lot. Let's say we talk, but we want her to have coffee in her hand. So I would choose one where she's sitting. So I know from looking through my props that I have this exact little coffee cup in the props. So when I want her to put it down and be nodding her head to listen or to talk, then it's not going to be like the cup just disappears. So that's just getting to know your props. Again, if I wanted to change a character, I wouldn't delete them. I would select the character. I'd go over here, and then I would choose which one I wanted to, I would just replace it using this button here. Let's do some fun stuff with the camera. So click on the background. You're going to choose camera and add camera. It's going to automatically start with the whole thing. This does nothing. This is not going to change anything. You're going to want to add camera movements, and this is where your zoom is going to end up. So let's say I want to start off looking at the whole coffee shop, and then we're going to zoom in on these two people having a conversation. Now, if you look at our timeline, let me make that big for a sec so you can see that. The zoom, you can adjust. You can make it for the whole, it'll automatically make it for the whole scene, but you can make it as quick or as slow as you want. If you zoom too quickly, it's going to look a little weird, but again, that's just another thing you play around with. So let's say I want to zoom into them. And then after I zoom in, I'm going to, so let's pull that up. I'm going to right click and choose continue scene. And it's going to start exactly where the zoom ended. So all this other stuff that's outside of the camera, you're not going to see. Your viewer's not going to see once you preview. So let's say I've got them talking and it's a long conversation and I don't want people to just be staring at the same thing the whole time. That's boring. So what I would do when I'm continuing scene is I would probably zoom in on one at a time and have it go back and forth and maybe look at her while she's talking. So I would click on her and change the action to talk while sitting. So when I did this, see now what I would do now is go to props and I would find that exact coffee cup and put that in there. And I would just have to remember to do that so that it doesn't look like it just disappears. So what I'd like to do is you kind of get two main scenes if you're going to be going back and forth between two people talking. So I right click and continue scene. And in my every other scene, I want it to look at him while he's talking. So what I do is keep this the same size and just drag it over. So now every other scene, I'm going to want either her talking or him talking, right? So I'd get this scene exactly the way I want it. And then what I'm going to do is copy paste. So right click and copy, select the one you want it to come after, and then control V. There's no other way to paste on here except for control V. So then I'd go to here, right click and copy, and then control V again. And I'm just going to do this as many times as I need to have them going back and forth for their conversation. And I'll show you what that looks like. It just looks a lot more interesting than staring at two people talking. So let's go back there. Let me move this out of the way. So I'll give you an idea of what this looks like. And remember, the zoom is going to take the whole scene. So it zooms in. So we're looking just at them. Look at just her talking. Goes back to just him talking. We can do that as long as we need to. Now, let's say the scene ends and we want to show both of them one more time at the end of the scene. So I'm going to right click and choose copy and put that here. Control V to paste. Now I want to zoom back out, right? Maybe I'm going to have a little closing music to look nice. Maybe I'm going to have the narrator teach a lesson, pointing out something about their conversation. So leave this right here, right where this was, but we're going to go back to camera and add movement. And this time I'm going to make it fill up the entire screen. So the red is always where the camera is going to start. The yellowish orange is where it's going to end. So zooming out is just as simple as zooming in. Red is where you start. Orange is where you end up. One little trick I do a lot is to add movement to my scenes. So this is the way one of the templates look. I haven't changed anything here. It's kind of plain, in my opinion. So before I did anything else, I would add some extra people, and I'm going to want movement in here. So a trick I use a lot is birds, dogs, and cats. So again, just to make it not look boring, if there needs to be a long conversation, yeah, I can zoom in on one at a time and but that gets old too. So I like to add dogs because you can use them in a park, you can use them in a house, and that gives you a little bit of movement. So let's say I'm planning in advance. This is going to be a longer scene and I don't want it to get boring. So I'm going to right click and mirror. And at the beginning of the scene, my dog's just going to be right there. And again, I would add people, I would put more drinks on here, just more stuff to make it look interesting. And I would just adjust my scene length based on the voiceover. Now, if your scene needs to be longer than the voiceover, let's say the voiceover artist didn't leave a long enough pause here, what you can do is select right where you want to cut. You can right click and choose split. And now I can right click on this and move it if I need a little more time.
Got a couple questions in there, so I want to throw those at you, just to talk a little about Vyond. So I see it as so much more potential. We see animation maybe with a younger audience, but telling any sort of stories. What has been your experience with using this tool for adults, for really any age, really for using Vyond? What's been your experience with it?
So I do a lot of diversity training, and I find this is great for conversations. I'm working with Procter and Gamble right now, and they did a huge survey of employees, and we want to show some of the things different employees said. Now, obviously, it's anonymous, but we want to bring it to life, right?
Mhm.
So I can make a whole bunch of different people on here, and I can have a voiceover artist record exact quotes from these surveys. So
Yeah,
it's just a more interesting way for the managers to hear, okay, someone
absolutely.
reported this experience. This is not what we want to happen at Procter& and Gamble. There's also a text option, so it makes it a little more interesting than PowerPoint. I've done some videos where they want a ton of text, so you can have like, let's say this was going to be how to prepare for a safety visit. You can have all that here. You can use enter and exit effects to have them fly in. So it's another way to present, if you have to go through a lot of content, this is just going to look more interesting than yet another PowerPoint.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you control the speed of the zoom as you move it across the slide, maybe?
Yes, so the zoom, let's go back to our zoom slide. This blue line here is the zoom. So if I only wanted it to zoom for 2 seconds, I can click on the blue line. Let's move that. Go on the end thing here, and I can make it so that it zooms really quickly. The zoom only takes 2 seconds, or I can make it zoom really slowly, as a 8-second zoom. I usually have the zoom take up the whole scene, so I just move the scene to whether I want the zoom to be faster or slower.
Nice. Cool. Yes. And then the last thing I'll ask is about the price. So, is there how long is the trial if anyone wants to get into the trial period, and then what would be the subscription cost?
So trial is 14 days. Unfortunately, you can't download your video from the trial. So it's a great way to play and learn. It's $700 for a subscription, and you can only get it annually, is my understanding. Um, so some employers are going to have it. When I did the job for the middle school teachers, they had their own Vyond account. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't jump in and buy it. I would do the 14 days free trial, play around with it, get another email address, do another free trial, get comfortable with it, and then unfortunately you are going to have to buy it if you want to actually download something to put in your portfolio.
Got it. Yes. Okay. And then last question here is, how often do you usually add movement to keep engagement up for the learner without becoming too distracted? Do you have a rule of thumb, or just how it feels in the
I
moment?
don't have a rule of thumb. We all watch so many videos in our lives that you just kind of develop a sixth sense. So, for example, when I did this scene, I would have, as they're talking, the dog is going to eventually run across here. And then I'm going to have a kid come in, maybe playing soccer in the background. And then another scene, I'm going to have a bird fly across. If I did all that at once, that's going to be ridiculous. Like, that's just going to be too busy, but just enough so they don't get bored. Just so yeah, I don't have an exact rule for that. You just go with not too much movement, but enough so that it looks like a video and not just a still picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm
I
sure it was like
apologize.
everyone else in watching, and there's just so much, and it's so cool. There's just so many different things as you see as possibilities with using a tool like this, and using any sort of animation outside of what we could consider like a K-12 environment. It has uses beyond any of those sort of it just in a K-12 classroom. So thank you, Star, for being on with us today. I really, really
Sure.
appreciate it. And I will also drop Vyond Facebook group into the comments if you'd like to join and get some more tips on Vyond. All right. Anything
You.
else?
I highly recommend you look up masking. Rued Reese, Ruedriis, has a lot of great YouTube videos. Masking is one thing that's not intuitive on Vyond, but it's super easy to learn and it lets you put pictures in picture frames on computer screens, saves you a lot of time cropping. So that's one thing I would look up.
Nice. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you again so much. And thank everyone for joining us today. And if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to reach out and keep learning, keep
Absolutely.
accelerating. We'll see you guys next time.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks so much.